Hello and welcome back to the Kalopsia pod. I'm your host Sydney and I'm thrilled to have you guys with me this Friday while we talk about the importance of music. Now this week I was kind of at a point where I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do the episode about, and I was talking to one of my best friends and she was saying how recently she just started listening to music again. Now, she had stopped listening to music for reasons of her own, but I was like, oh my goodness, like thank God. It's amazing that you've started listening to music again. And I feel like a lot of people tend to take breaks, whether it's for religious reasons or if it's for, a dopamine detox. I know that Emma Chamberlain did a dopamine detox, and I think one of the things she cut out was music. But I think that it's one of those things that is actually a great pathway to getting our dopamine. But why is that? So when I was kind of just thinking about music in general, I was like, okay, I feel like music is a pinnacle of society, but why is that? So there are a few different reasons. Number one, it's a vital, societal pillar because it unites and empowers people. It's something that transcends language, it's something that transcends culture, it's something that transcends time. Music is our pathway to people from different cultural backgrounds, but also different time eras, and also is a vehicle for social change, for example, or even for, transcending social class. We see how music has been transformed and borrowed and used and collaborated through it, right? And it's such a uniting and empowering, tool for humanity and for us all. Not only that, but it's something that can help us sustain culture, sustain our heritage. It's for cultural preservation as well. But beyond its role in uniting people, empowering people, and having this kind of cultural impact, something that I found interesting was the topic of its impact on our brains. Now, I am interested about this because there was actually a scandal that kind of went on TikTok. Let me find her name. Actually, you guys, I can't find it because otherwise it's going to stop recording. Unfortunately, I literally took a screenshot, but I forgot. But essentially, I think her name was Brooke, but she's one of those, cutesy girls online on TikTok, who does outfit content and hair content and makeup content. And she's just one of those cutesy girls from the South, I think. And the people loved her. We loved her. It was like, okay, just for cottagecore adjacent type of content, she was great for that. But then she dropped a TikTok that kind of shook up the internet a little bit. And this is from a month back or so, but if you guys remember, or if you don't know about it, it's basically where she was saying that she and her friends decided to watch a Black Mirror episode, and she was saying how, oh my goodness, I literally had these terrible nightmares, and I don't deal with mental health, but all of a sudden I had anxiety, and I decided to, these are her words, this is her story, I'm paraphrasing of course, but she was like, I just went home and I prayed the demons away, because Black Mirror actually infiltrated demons into my head. And I actually think that this is a testimony, and for everybody who's dealing with mental health, specifically schizophrenia and depression, then you guys should really watch what you're listening to and what you're watching, because that's how the demons come. Needless to say, she got canceled, and she posted an apology, but she basically didn't take anything back. She said okay, I shouldn't have said the schizophrenia thing, but she was kind of still on the standpoint of demons are coming through from the Black Mirror episode and from music that she listens to, and she took it to the extreme. That's where she went wrong. And something to note here is that this is religious psychosis, is what she was going through. We have been seeing a lot of it online on TikTok recently, honestly. But what she was saying about how, she willed her mental health problems away, was interesting. But okay, she went to the extreme, and that's where she went wrong. But I do think it's important to note that the content that we consume, the music that we listen to, what we do watch, is going to impact us in some ways, but on a vibrational level. So the thing is, we are vibrational beings. Quantum physics will tell us this. If you boil down our human bodies, look at our blood, look at our organs, anything that has to do with us has to do with atomic energy and has to do with vibrational energy. Now, that's why we often see how, places like Ibiza or in Arizona, I think it's Sedona, there's these super high vibrational, rocks almost. I believe they're meteors or something like that. I'm not well versed on the subject matter. However, there's this big rock in Ibiza, and then there's this town, right, Sedona in Arizona, and they're believed to be super high vibrational places, very localized high vibrational energy, and people who go there and who travel there immediately feel themselves be lighter and happier and freer, and they themselves feel like they are at a higher vibrational frequency. Now, why is that? The reality is that we are reacting to our environment just like we are impacting our environment. We see this in the law of attraction, where if you're thinking to yourself, self-sabotaging thoughts and thinking to yourself, I suck, I'm ugly, I'm talentless, whatever, that's the energy that you're embodying, and that's the energy that you're putting out into the world. And so your world is going to confirm that to you. Your world is going to mirror that vibration that you're putting out. So when we think about music, if you are sad and you listen to sad music, you listen to like depressing music, thinking about, continuing affirmations of sadness and of low self-esteem, then you're not going to take yourself out of that mindset. You're not going to be able to transcend that by continuing to allow these sad vibrations into your body, right? Because by listening to it, you're internalizing it. Now, the thing is with these positive vibrational places is that it really shows how susceptible we are to vibrations, external vibrations. And that's why the law of attraction does work for so many people when they say, when you want to manifest something, you have to believe it, you have to think it, you have to feel it. And I did an episode on this a while back. I'll link it somewhere, but I was talking about the law of assumption as well, where when you think about that, it's all about embodying that destination reality. And I believe there was a philosopher, I'm forgetting his name now. Wait, let me figure it out. His name was Neville Goddard. And basically, he found that every single night he went to bed picturing himself at his destination reality. I believe he had dreamt of going to travel to go to his uncle's house or his grandfather's house or something like that. And it wasn't something that he could particularly afford at the time, but every single night he went to bed and he thought of himself in that destination reality. And eventually it manifested in his external reality because it is literally what he was internalizing for himself, the reality that he would believe for himself, and then he would immediately go to bed and it was internalized into his subconscious. But now going back to music, I feel like the power of music is something that is totally underestimated. And I feel like I opened up this whole new world when I discovered this whole new concept called subliminals, but we'll get into that in a second. Something that I have loved doing in the past year or two is that I am so into making playlists. And my playlists in the past, and I have them saved, they're still on my page if you guys want to find them, but my playlists in the past were so depressing, so sad. I had like a sad girl playlist, breakup songs, just like sad ballads almost, and that was all I would listen to, and then rap music, right? That it was either or. It was like sad music or rap music, right? And so as time went on, I'm thinking to myself, okay, music is actually becoming a tool for me. It's actually something that I can use to transform my mood. Because a lot of the time when you're in a bad mood, you can't just talk yourself out of that like that. That's not really going to work. But what can work is listening to your favorite artist, listening to that upbeat song, making yourself able to, shake that tension out of your body. And I know that something else I've heard often is that dancing first thing in the morning or dancing throughout your day is so beneficial for the lowering of your cortisol, for the lowering of your stress. And it's a tool that we're not tapping into. But basically, I made like a few different playlists. I have a 444 playlist, which that angel number kind of represents that you're being watched over by your angels and you're protected, you're on the right path. So I have one that makes me feel like, I'm on the right path. On there, I've got a Nicki Minaj song. I've got I've got Ariana Grande. We've got music that is filled with affirmations. And I think that's the crux of the matter. We need to be tuning into, this depends if you want to help yourself, but if you want to help yourself, if you want to become that better version of yourself, make yourself more available to those types of affirmations. Don't continue to listen to those sad girl playlists, those, depressing TikToks and, watching sad, black and white movies. I'm going into the extremes now, of course, but it's important to open up your world and make yourself available to more positivity, and music is an amazing tool for that. And there's thousands of playlists online. If you type in high vibrational music, even if you look up 432 hertz playlists. Right, so there was actually, I was going to start out this episode with this theory, which I did realize was debunked, right? But a lot of the music that we listen to today is tuned to 470 hertz, I believe it is. No, 440 hertz, I'm sorry. So the conspiracy theory, and I am heavy on this conspiracy theory, is that apparently people thought that Hitler during his time, would broadcast his speeches and all of his propaganda to 440 hertz because it makes you more susceptible and it makes you slightly more uncomfortable, but it's also kind of addictive. But it's been debunked. That's not true. However, the truth still stands that 440 hertz is a frequency that is slightly uncomfortable, and it is something that's going to make you a little bit more susceptible to continue to listen to that specific thing, right? And I would always think this when I was younger, listening to, Grenade by Bruno Mars, or I feel like there was those songs that would constantly play on the radio when you were like 11 or 14, depending on what age you are. But I feel like it was like I was entranced. I could not get the song out of my head. I was like, what the heck? Like, I don't even like this song that much. But it's like we're literally entrained to keep listening to it. But I digress. 432 hertz has actually been shown to be a healing frequency. And this comes back to when we're talking about the law of attraction and, the physics side of it, and how we are quantum, beings that are, at the end of the day, vibrations and frequencies. The frequencies that you expose yourself to, you're going to internalize that. And so when we are listening to kind of like harsher, darker music, that's going to lower your frequency. It's not going to make demons infiltrate your mind. No. It's not going to cause you to have schizophrenia. No. But it may just make your vibration a little bit lower. You might not be as high frequency, high vibration as you would be if you were listening to more high vibrational music. But 432 hertz has been shown to have so many healing properties, which include stress and anxiety reduction. 432 hertz is actually considered to have a calming effect on the nervous system, and it helps reduce your cortisol. It's also been believed that 432 hertz can improve your focus, which makes it really beneficial for meditation, visualization, and other practices. So even for manifestation, it's going to be great for that because it's going to help you focus and tune more deeply into what you're doing at that present moment. Some studies have also suggested that 432 hertz can be really beneficial for sleep and being able to fall asleep and stay asleep. Now, something that's interesting, though, that I saw online was that it's difficult to tune a song or to tune an album to 432 hertz. They literally make it more complicated on the technical standpoint. And that just kind of shows like, okay, this society doesn't want us to heal. They want us a little bit uncomfortable. They want us to keep listening to the 440 hertz and be a little bit susceptible. But 432 hertz, I severely, severely recommend. And there are tons of other ones. I think there's also 888 hertz. That's also a good one. The other thing that I saw on Harvard's website actually was the benefit of music in brain activation and neuroplasticity. So basically, you've all heard the saying, if you don't use it, you'll lose it. And that applies to the brain. Something very interesting about music is that it actually activates almost all of your brain. And this is from Harvard's website, by the way. They said, and I quote, "Music has been shown to activate some of the broadest and most diverse networks of the brain. Of course, music activates the auditory complex in the temporal lobes close to your ears, but that's just the beginning. The parts of the brain involved in emotion are not only activated during emotional music, they are also synchronized. Music also activates a variety of memory regions. And interestingly, music activates the motor system. In fact, it has been theorized that it is the activation of the brain's motor system that allows us to pick out the beat of the music even before we start tapping our foot to it. That is so interesting. So we're seeing how it's going to help not only boost our memory, but it's also helping our brain stay active, helping our brain stay plastic and, capable. Harvard's Health Publishing also says, and I quote, "Brain pathways, even whole networks, are strengthened when they are used and are weakened when they are not used. The reason is that the brain is efficient. It isn't going to bother keeping a brain pathway strong when it hasn't been used in years. The brain will use the neurons in that pathway for something else. These types of changes should be intuitively obvious to you. That's why it's harder to speak that foreign language if you haven't used it in 20 years. And that's so interesting as well. Beyond that, music's cognitive benefits also include memory enhancement, which we discussed, attention and focus, which we also saw, executive function. Music training has actually been linked to improvements in executive functions like planning, decision-making, and problem-solving. We're seeing the effects of that neuroplasticity. Language and literacy. Studies have shown that music education can positively impact language skills, including vocabulary, reading comprehension, and pronunciation. And obviously this all is also going to lead to a reduced risk of dementia. That neuroplasticity and that brain network strength, it's going to make it easier for us to learn new tasks and also promote the brain's ability to grow. But one more thing I wanted to bring up was this recent discovery that I have recently found out about, which is called Subliminals. Now, this is so interesting because it is totally linked to the whole vibrational aspect of it all. And the history behind subliminals is kind of interesting. I believed it began in the 50s and it was used in a marketing standpoint. So the man who kind of discovered it or kind of created a lot of buzz around the subject, he basically included, I think it was in a movie or something like that, he included little snippets of like popcorn or Coke that was kind of meant to entrance the audience into purchasing more Coke and more Coca-Cola and more popcorn. And his findings were eventually debunked. However, it's something that people have continued to use and have continued to work towards. However, it is interesting how polarized the subliminal sector is online because if you don't know, Subliminals is essentially kind of an audio soundtrack that's almost like white noise. It could be like a beach or, washing waves or, kind of like lo-fi beats, whatever. But essentially in the background, it's going to have positive affirmation. So you can have subliminals for wealth. You can have subliminals for beauty. You can have subliminals for love. Anything that you want to manifest, there are like thousands of videos online where you can or on Spotify, you can just listen. And it basically is only noticeable by your subconscious. It's not something that you can perceive or listen to and notice and be cognizant of when you're just listening to it off the bat. However, with repetition, sometimes once a day, sometimes twice a day, sometimes once a week, whatever, it depends on you, depends how much time you want to work towards it. But a lot of people have seen concrete changes, not only in their confidence or maybe in their wealth or maybe in their appearance, maybe in their relationships. And it's so interesting to see literal testimonies and comments and people who are coming online to talk about it and how in training their subconscious mind and using these affirmations and these vibrations can genuinely affect them. So all of this goes to show that the music that you listen to, the content that you try to, integrate into your life is going to have an effect on you in a vibrational level. No, I debunk, I reject, I rebuke the prerogative that, demons are going to come and infiltrate your mind from shows or TV or movies. However, I do think that we are sensitive to vibrations. And whether that's seen in physical geographical regions like Arizona, like Ibiza, but also in the content that we consume. So let this be a testament to you, or let this be a reminder to you to pay attention to what you're listening to. Can you help yourself out even more by focusing on more high vibrational music? Maybe you want to incorporate a subliminal into your life. I think I'm going to start listening to a subliminal this week, and I think I want to do it for like a month and see. I'll come back, or I'll do a dedicated video and see if anything has changed. Let me know if you guys would be interested in that, or I could do it on TikTok, on my personal page. I think it would be more it would make more sense. But I digress. I think that's all I have for you guys today. I hope that you guys found it interesting. I love music. I love making playlists. It's such a fun hobby, and I feel like it's such a great tool. And we've gotta move. We've gotta dance. And if you guys, my favorite playlist that I've got on my Spotify, I'll link it down below, is my Island Gyal playlist, Gyal, and it is literally my favorite playlist I've ever made to date. I always come back to it. We've got Tyla, we've got a lot of Tyla. We've got, I'm blanking on the other artists that are in there. Amare, there is Rema. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of great Afrobeat playlists, a lot of great Afrobeat songs that really get you moving, get you dancing, and that's what we want to be doing. We want to raise our vibrations and be the best, highest form of ourselves, and music is one of the ways to get there. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this week's episode. I'm thrilled that you guys joined me. I have thoroughly enjoyed chatting with you guys. I'm so grateful for all the feedback I'm getting, guys. Keep leaving comments, and I love to hear what you guys think. And don't forget to reach out. It's at kalopsiapod, KALOPSIAPOD on Instagram and TikTok, and at Sydney Jotita, SYDNEYDJOTITA, if you guys want to follow my personal stuff. But that's all I have for you guys today. I hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you guys next Friday. Have a good weekend.